Okay, so this is the Wave with Monogram packet, but this is applicable to doing any kind of the monogram and lettering. So originally how had done the instructions, it was so that you would put your lettering behind your piece, trace it on when you traced on your waves, and then as you paint, you avoid the M area. But since I started teaching the class in person, I found that it was easier for people to go ahead and just put the lines on, paint the whole thing, and then put the letter underneath and paint white over the top of it. Because being new painters, maybe your experience isn't there enough to be able to get this kind of gradient and skip these areas of white. So let's make it as easy as possible. If it's going to be a really dark background, it's okay. You can still do it that way. You might have to do a couple more layers of white just to have it be really bright white if that's a thing for you. But that's what this video is going to show, from the beginning to the end, how we do this type of lettering. And this design specifically, they're just some wavy lines that I put on. I picked a font that went well with Nautical, has kind of this little wavy here. And we could apply the same wave off the B and the D and the E, which I did in a smaller version to count out for the little bands for the crabs and buoys and things. So there's ways to modify these so that they actually have a cute little boop, so that, oh, that B is pretty plain, I don't really like it. Well, let's make it so that it has that zhuzh that you might want to emulate a wave. Okay, we do have other fonts available to choose from, but for right now, this is a painting demonstration of how to do the gradient waves, then put the lettering over the top of it. And so here we go. Okay. So basically, I'm not even really going, I know that this is 3 by 3. Pretty sure it's 3 by 3. And of course, when I want my little ruler, I can never find it. So we'll get back to that. Do I have a ruler over there? Of course not. Okay. So I'm just kind of centering it in the middle of this. All right, hold on. It's going to annoy the heck out of me. Let me get my... Okay, I was right. It's 3 by 3. So you would take your much larger piece. This is a little scrap piece of canvas that I'm doing this on. And you would measure in, leave yourself 1.5 inches to 2 inches all the way around your design area. So if you're using a frame, you're able to put it on your frame easily. So I am just going to that looks about right. So needlepoint canvas isn't always square. As you can see, the square that's on this printout is square. It was done on a computer. But needlepoint canvas is woven, so it doesn't mean that it's not going to have a little shift to it. That's one of the reasons why we block it. Okay, so here's our design. Now I'm going to kind of recenter it, making and what I do typically when they don't line up the way I want it to, see how this side's out now and that side's out of square? I try to make the horizontal lines be the straight side, and then I can shift it a little after the design is on if I want to, with like if I'm putting little lettering across, because you can kind of steam it and try to shift it back. It's just not that easy. So I take and put one corner in the square so it looks square there, and then do the opposite corner. And then the left and the right, we let them be wonky for now. And I'm just going to take my pencil, and this is just a number 2 HB. So it's going to leave enough of a pencil mark to be seen, but not so much as a Sharpie that could potentially show through and be difficult to paint over. Because I don't like seeing lines through what I'm doing. And I'm kind of holding the pencil a little loosely. If I hold it too hard, what happens is it'll get stuck in the holes. So you kind of got to let it, you have to have enough control over it to not let it just wander wherever it wants. It's all that Goldilocks factor. It has to be just right. Just skim it across. Right? Like this. Okay. So someone in a class that did a design looked at me like I had 3 heads when I said, no, you're not going to put the letter on first. You're going to paint it on after. And it was, and I said, but if it works better for you the other way, go for it. There is no one hard and fast way to do anything. All right, so now I'm going to pause this because I need to set the pencil. Okay, so I got to spray it with my matte medium, which is over there. I'll bring it back in a minute. Okay, so it's all sprayed, and I used the clear matte medium. Okay, and just gave it a quick little, not a big deal. Don't go clogging up your holes because you've oversprayed it. If you get needlepoint canvas too wet, what happens is it activates the sizing and makes it weaker. And even though it might have a little ripple in it, because I think I did that to it this time, right there, you can see it kind of curve. You can iron it and it will go flat again. Try not to do it in the first place like I just did. So usually, oh, here it is. So I have 2 brushes. This was used at the last one and didn't get cleaned out. So at the last class, but that's okay. So what we use is anybody that was into crafts or doing DIY wall treatments at home, we did a lot of stenciling, borders and things like that. And so you're doing a dry brush technique to put your matte medium on next. Okay, this is all about prepping the canvas so that the paint doesn't just get sucked right into this really coarse canvas. Okay, you can utilize just a standard brush. Okay, but what we do is we take our paper towels. So as we drive this clear mat down in, and somebody said at the last class, they're like, well, how do we know that we got all of the clear on there? You just watch as you're going, and do your best to get it hit. If you think maybe you missed a corner, after it's dry, go back, give it a little another dry brush. So doing this, we're going to go ahead and put our tape on first. Okay, we're going to tape that off. This is where it's always nicer to use a piece that's bigger than this. Okay. Like so. And there. All right. And doot. Now, as you're putting it down, make sure you're getting right on that stitch line. It's very easy to have it go up and down and not and get off of that stitch line, and then you end up not stitching a straight edge because it wasn't followed. Because as we just learned, this isn't always square, and sometimes the weave goes like this across as well, not just issues with squareness. Okay, so now I'm going to take my brush, okay, and I'm going to just pull. I know there's lots of little ones coming out, don't care. We're just putting the tip in, okay, and we're kind of tamping it off so that it almost looks like there's nothing left on it. This is dry, the bristles are dry, so that's why it's called a dry brush, and we're just tamping it in, and you can't really see it, but I can see a clear shiny smear that will not stay around because it dries as a mat. So always pull almost everything that you just globbed onto this, put the tip into, pull it off. See if I can catch the lights. There's a smear right there on the plate where I've pulled a majority of that matte medium off of my brush. And I'm just tap, 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 push, push, push. And this is how we prep our canvas with the matte medium. The matte acrylic spray obviously helps as well. Not just to hold down your pencil, but also to take care of adding just another layer between. We want this paint to not be absorbed down in. Not only does it take like 3 times longer to paint because you're just constantly having to load your brush, right? You don't get as good a coverage. You aren't able to pull that paint across as easily. So I use Americana and I use Anita's paints. This time I'm actually using a little bit of Delta Creme Coat just because of the color. The other one was a little gloppy that I had, and it's actually a lot thinner than the creme coat usually is. That one is usually very thick, and I can't use it straight out of the bottle. I have to add the matte medium to it to thin it. You never use water to thin your paints. It makes it dry faster. So always use just a tiniest bit of matte medium if you're got a plate full of paint that's drying and it's getting a little stodgy. Okay? All right. So first thing we're going to do, so this is what you would get in the kit. You'll get, I mixed this one lighter because I really rarely use anything right out of the bottle. Okay, so you get these. You get a pack of your matte medium, a cup white, and then you have your 3 tones that you need for this project. Okay, so I am not going to steal from that cup. I am going to show you, and I want you to have a piece of paper plate to use as your palette. Okay, and why is that? Because dipping it into, you've got to do some mixing. You got to do a little shading. You got to add a little glazing to it because we're going to utilize this matte medium that we have on our plate to create, okay, so that we can create a translucent layer to help make the gradient as we go. Okay, all right, so let me get my last color on here, and it doesn't take much, tiny, it really doesn't. So the one we would probably use the most of is our lightest color, and that is what we start with. Okay, so here's our lightest color, medium color, darkest. I always mix with the opposite end of the paintbrush. Don't mix with your bristles because it loads all the paint into your bristles, and then how do you get it out? You're wasting a lot of paint. So always use a stirrer or something to be able to, sometimes I use the little barbecue skewers that you can get. And it's easier to, I didn't really want to use these. I bring the bottles with me because I find that, I want you to be able to pour it out and mix it when you're in class. So definitely use something to pour it out onto your plate. Don't use it directly from your cups because you won't get the same look. Or if you do, put it on the plate before you do it. Okay? Okay. So the first step is we are going to put our wash, put our light color everywhere. And you're like, Kelly, you're covering up your paint, your pencil lines. I don't care. You can still see them. And it'll be much better. Now, I understand that my lights are kind of blowing out the color. But we're going to be doing a gradient all the way across. And so I don't care if this is super even as far as coverage. That's why I'm just going back and forth all over it. Okay, hold on. I'm going to see if I can get my camera to catch this a little bit better. Okay, I don't know how much of a difference this is going to make, but I tried. All right, so maybe if I... All right, we're just going to keep going. So we're just going to get this all smeared on. All right. Okay. Get this just smeared on so that we can keep going. All right. And Okay, now I'd like to find some kind of gray or some way to make it so you could kind of see that it's green. Dang, it's just not gonna do it. All right, fine. Here we go. Trying to make sure that you can see as I'm see having a shadow over it kind of helps for you to see. But what are you gonna do? Oof, that's really dark now. What the heck? Interesting. Hmm. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that, you know, everybody can see and that it hasn't been darkened too much to adjust for the color. All right, so then the next thing we're gonna do is, now I gotta look and see. So these little bits that are here, I had at the bottom, right? So this is the bottom. I'll do that. In order to lay in the darkest color, it's going to be turning the canvas like this. Why is that? I'm going to put this underneath because I want to make sure I can see where my lines are. Okay. All right. Like that. Okay. And I mean, I can see the pencil lines, but I really want you to be able to see the pencil lines. All right, so I am going to grab some of my matte medium, of my dark, and yes, I'm breaking the rule because, you know, that's what I do. Because I don't want it that dark, okay? That dark will be a real problem. Well, not a real problem. I just think it's too contrasty, and trying to get a gradient that close. Yep. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, I know. So when it gets too full, I roll and pull to get all of that paint unloaded off my brush. Okay. Now, all right, here we go. Ready? We start. Like this. Now I'm not going to put in these little dollops yet because they're kind of the highlight. They're the top. But I am going to just, it's hard with this camera in my face. Come along and sketch in this edge. And I'm grabbing a little paint. Okay, like this. Now, as I'm painting, I'm letting the tip just kind of scrub over it as the color continues to wear away. So I'm just not reloading every pass. Now I'm going to grab, it's really hard for me to have this right here. Okay, so now I'm going to grab some of the medium color, and I'm going to bring that Bahama blue up in here and help soften, lighten a little bit. All right, but then I'm going to grab this light color again. Yeah, I'm going to drag it out, really get a lot on that tip, and then I'm going to start just brushing back and forth. And what's happening with that light color on the tip, I'm coming up into it, into wet paint and pulling it back down and just letting it meld together. There's some of that dark on my brush still. So what happens? It's mixing on your brush. It's mixing the medium colors into here. You can grab a little bit of the dark again if you maybe wanted to bring the dark in a little. And it's just that white is transitioning it and not making it as dark. Okay, so now we're going to hit this next line. Okay. And I'm falling a little under the pencil line. So this is dark, not the darkest. It's that in between, the lagoon green, I think is what it was called. Okay. Like this. And I'm just letting all of that darker color wear off my brush. You can see how it's kind of got little skip steps. Maybe you can't. So now I'm going to add some of the medium color. And that's really not going to do enough. So we're going to grab that light, twist it, get a dollop on there, and we're going to come over here and bring it up into it slowly. Let those colors that are on your brush and the colors that are wet, I'm almost doing like little tiny little circles to pull it down in to make that medium gradient. Okay, now this is the point prior to this actually, is you need to make the decision. Am I painting this for a friend to stitch, and I don't know if they want to have open stitches or closed, and so I really want to show this gradient there so they can have nice open stitches, or I love an open stitch and I want to do something fancy on there, so I'm going to paint this out? Or do you decide that you're going to do your shading with your needle and the fibers, and it really doesn't require this much effort for you to do this, like this, of going through the painstaking, okay, dark colors on, let's bring that light color in and pull down that wet paint and get a nice gradient color going. Is it necessary? It's your project. I don't know. You might go, oh yes, I really want to see that. I want that nice shade, because without that kind of guidance, I'm not really sure where I want to start it and stop it. All right, so now we got to do a big clean. All right. Well, I think you can kind of see that better because I did some camera changing. All right. Settings. Because even when I tell it not to do the auto, it still kind of does it. Blows it out. Okay. Now this is more of like a freestyle, shady kind of painting. A lot of people are very surprised when we teach class and they're like, oh, I thought I was just going to come in and count something out and paint it by numbers, and wait a minute, you want me to be creative and make decisions, and yeah, that's all the fun of it. You get to decide, do I just want to have this kind of flat color that I then use a variegated fiber on? So I'm just going to paint it flat? Maybe. Or, oh, I'm going to do a dark color in the background, and so I should definitely put my lettering in before it and figure out how to avoid that area. Okay. And it should be fun. Let it be fun. And I just keep going on, doing the... So by turning it, it lets me have this dark edge. It's much easier to paint this way than to try to paint this way to get the dark edge, right? All right. Now I'm going to grab some of the lightest. And see, as I scrub it up, you can see, maybe you can, maybe you can't, I'm not looking up there, that light color mixes in with the dark color that's still in the brush and makes that medium color that you need. If you noticed, I stopped even going up into that medium color because I'm using the existing color that's in the brush and it's up. Should still be wet. If it's not, grab a little more of the darker color and bring it back in while that white is wet, and you're getting that nice gradient. Alright. Only a couple more, and maybe not enough of the dark that I prepared, but that's okay. Oh, we're gonna make it work. Love our make it work moments. Okay. Last one, I'm going to add a little bit of matte medium to this little bit of sludge that's left on the plate and try to squeak out that right there. Now, because it's not a nice thick amount, it's a little transparent because of our medium, it doesn't flow nicely off of our brush. So we kind of got to scrub it in. All right. I'm gonna grab a little of this. Do just a little more color in those spots. Oof, everything's sticking to me today. Okay. Next. So what I was talking about earlier is this design is exactly, okay, so here it is. Boop. And boop. Okay. All right. This design is actually the exact same design that's behind the anchor. It's just one is painted flat and the other one is a gradient. So you have to decide what is going to work best for you. You also have another option. I need my other alphabet. Hold on. Okay, so we have two fonts to choose from. Now, you could also take this and put this behind and turn it into a circle, into a round ornament. It doesn't have to be. It could fit into a round self-finishing box. It's all up to you. Okay, so we have another bee that could be very cute on there. I am going to use the standard bee, and then I'm going to kind of change it so that it has this little foot-de-doo right there coming off. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up. Now, here we go. There, and upper left, lower right. Remember? Now, this is our 0 round Master Touch Fine Art Studio. I get these from Hobby Lobby. It's the only one that I've been able to find that lasts okay and loads the paint well. It's just hard to explain. Okay, so I'm going to grab some white paint. All right. And I am just going to go along and put in a very basic outline. Okay. So if you can't see where, or if you're worried that this is going to shift, I want you to take this paper and tape it down to your board, and then just tape the top side of your canvas to the board as well, because then you can raise it up a little, just enough to see which way that line went. Okay? All right, so let's keep going, because I just had that moment. That's why I had to do it. Like that. Now, if the white kind of fades into the lighter color here, you can always come back up with more blue and work it out. on where you want it to be. Okay? Now, I don't think I want to go way out to here. Maybe I do. Why not? I'm going to give this to a friend anyway. Alright, so I'm going to start here and go straight up to there. And this comes here, there. Alright. Then we are it is looking like we are very close to our edge on this circle, but we don't need to worry about the circle because we're not doing the circle, Kelly. We're doing here, right? All right. And then there. As I start to get glop drying white, I'll just kind of smear it off into the big open spaces if it starts getting too stodgy on my brush. I am going to look at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which is right when we're at the bottom. It looks weird if the thickest part over here isn't as thick as the base letter. Okay. Okay. And I am coming in, and now I'm going to start filling in, but I would like A, B, C, D. And that's going to there. Now it's time to start filling in, but also I want to look at, I'm going to grab this M. Okay. And I am going to put, now the M had to be a little smaller, so maybe we do the N, because it's almost as big. And we make it like but that's not going to be okay, hold on. There, 2 over there. Okay, let's see this. So if that comes out like that, And I think we need to have that like that. I'm just visually eyeballing it. Because sometimes these fonts don't give us what we want. Is it going to be too big? I need to live with it for a second. So that's a diagonal there, and it'll look weird. If I bring it to there, okay, let me fill in for a minute while I mentally debate. So at this point, I'm going to kind of be looking at how the stitches fell. All right. So every time you pull back across, it's going to take some of the paint. So when I have a lot of paint, like I just laid a huge dollop on that one stitch, I come back and I'll keep trying to pull it across any that look a little thin. So it's nice and bright white. Now, if this is for you and you don't care, it's fine. Do two there. What's it gonna look like that? It's kind of bleh, too much. It's gonna be too squared off. And then down, way down here. Oof. Oh my goodness. Now you get to see me try to match that color in the gradient. Okay. Now, at this point, if you wanted to, you could take out your larger brush. It is a 2 that I like to use, but a 4 also works. Like I said, I'm just getting this laid on. Okay? Okay. Now, I'd like to see this be a little color at the bottom. Okay. Okay. Now this is 2 squared. So it was our dark and our medium. Dun, 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 dun. That would have been, there we go. That'll work. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy with that now. I know, you're like, Kelly, seriously. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not good. Not good. So what do we do? Because then it's not going to be even in the box, right? So that's... So if this is... we did that 6. And then this one was... we still need to go up 1. This is 3, 6, 7, 8. And this is 5. It's never going to be exactly perfect. So one's going to be 6 and one's going to be 7. So I think what we're going to do is grab this piece here, take it off, grab, it's like, where did it go? Oh, it's sitting under the other painting. Hiding. Okay. So this is 8, 5. So we're going to do 7 there. Okay. Yeah. Now, first off, I want to define those few stitches as that color. Then we're going to bring in some of the light and paint that in there like that. Okay, and like And like that. And we're going to grab a little more dark, a little more light, meld together. Good, solid, heavy. Okay. Because it's important that this also is centered correctly. So we don't have to, make ourselves so nuts on, okay, so now this has 3, 6, 7. 3, 6, 7, 8. So it's not always easy. We kind of made this side off center a little bit because of adding our tail. But again, what are we going to do? Well, we're not going to make ourselves, oh no, I can't use this painting. Come on now. We don't do that. Make it work. We make it work. So let's add a couple onto this side. All right. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Close enough for me. How about you? I thought so. We're so on board with this project. Okay. And we're just kind of going, ooh, there's another little, and oh, this looks like it comes up this way, and oh, that comes down that way. Little there. Yeah, that looks right, because when I stitch it, it'll be fine. We're just fudging our way through this. That was a little bit of the medium color. Alright. Get that on there. Yeah. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Okay, now grab that light color, right? Put that light color down and start scrubbing that medium color out of your brush, right? Because it's still in there. Grab a little there. We're just going to put that across for right now. And then get the majority off there and there. So what I'm doing is I have a huge dollop of the light color on the end of this. But see how it's wearing off as I'm going along? So I want to grab some of my medium. I'm grabbing some of that medium with all that light that I had, so that we're going to kind of make that gradient come in. Come on. Like that into the wet. It's a little different, we're trying to fudge our way along this. That did fine. That's fine. But this needs a little gradient here. And that needs a little gradient there. We've got to cover up that silly flibbity jibbin pencil line that I can see. That makes me crazy. Now, why do I not want to see this line? I'm a finisher. A lot of times what happens is, say you decided this is a coaster, it's not for self-finishing box. Well, if that was the case, and I turned that edge over, and whatever fiber they used didn't cover really, really well, then what happens is you can see this dark bit of pencil line or Sharpie that won't ever go away through this fiber, because maybe this fiber splits a little, maybe it's a little thin. You just never know. So just don't take the chance. Cover it up the best that you can. I think it's pretty good. Probably not as fabulous as I'd like it to be. All right. So I used to use Mongoose brushes. I loved them. I miss them. I know they're cute and fluffy. I know. But they were just the best brushes for what we do. The issue with using synthetic brushes, which is what you're going to find the majority of out there now, except for the hog bristle, which is what I use for the number 4 or the number 2, okay, to do big areas. With the natural brushes, the bristles break. With the synthetic brushes, they don't break. They curl. They just curl and curl. You know, you're sitting there painting and I'm turning it, trying to make it so that it's hitting all the different sides. Doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. All right, so here we have this little boop there. I'd like to have a transition here. I want a little curve up. I don't want it to be 90 degrees there. Okay. All right. There. Now I want to put, so it's hard because I have 2 lines here, but where these meet, I don't want that. Okay. It's going to sound weird, but I want just one stitch separating. The top be, you know, the top from the bottom. It looks weird if you don't. There. One more. A lot of times I squint to see if I can see the stitch looking a little bit better, a little more kind of the way I like seeing it. That sounds weird, but I'm looking at this and I feel like this doesn't have as nice of a radius as this. So I'm going to bring this out one more stitch to make the bottom a little heavier curve up. Maybe you won't care about that, and that's okay. And that's it. I mean, that's it. That's it. Okay? Now, you're ready to go ahead and stitch. Okay? Now, this particular way of doing lettering is going to be in all of the monogram packets so that you can see whether it is, of course I buried everything over here. Hold on. Okay. So whether it's this, same thing. Do everything else, put your letter in last. Okay, because you may want to shift this. It may look a little too heavy on one side or the other. Okay. Same with this. Paint all of this, put it in after. Don't make your life so hard. You can put it in before and then do the dark around it. You can do that. Paint the yellow first, then put the blue in. Not a problem. It's what makes sense to you and the colors you're choosing and the design that you have picked. Okay? That one's not applicable. Same thing here. After. That was an after. All right? So you put in all the light color and then just came in with the navy. Now, this you could put one of these over it. Put a monogram right over the top of your hydrangea petals if you wanted to. It's not a have to, but you could. And what's the difference? This is 13 mesh? None, because these aren't counted out. They're printed out to the appropriate size for each piece. This is how I do stockings, names on stockings, any of that. I type it all out. I hit center in between the ends of the pages. Maybe I put a box around it in Publisher or Office Suite, which is an open source free publisher type program. And then I just take these and put it out, line it up, and I trace it on. I don't sit and count out lettering unless it's really tiny, and then I will. So yeah, I mean, we have lots of different versions of the lettering. I did these after because, and you're like, but that's so dark, and how am I supposed to see it through it? It's not as difficult as you think. It's just not. Okay? All right. So now you hopefully understand, all right, how to do the lettering, how to do shading. The shading is applicable the same way with our hydrangeas as it is here. Use a lighter color, come in with a little darker color, and put a little matte medium in it so it's like a little color wash. All works. All right, good luck, happy painting, and hopefully I'll see you in class.